Serious faces, people. Come on, seriously.
Serious.
Right, straight face. How are you? Welcome back. Oh, actually, this won't work. I'll have to wait for the sun to come up. I'll be back in a bit. Quick pit stop to pick up some spare Agrii Maize silage additive, and now we head north. How are you? Welcome back. My last video was about a month ago now. And do you remember I said this? The big coat's on. That means one thing. Those parts of the UK that have been desperate for rain over the last few months have finally started to receive some. So, what I'm going to talk to you about today is forage options for autumn and also over the winter. Well, after that had happened, for a lot of those that have been in very dry conditions throughout the majority of this year, came dry again, back up to over 30 degrees on some occasions, and it's just proved really challenging. Now, in that last video where I was discussing all the options that we had for potentially alternative forage supply over the winter, if it is that we have been short throughout the majority of the year because it has been so dry, that we had that month of August to get them established. Yes, we did have a little bit of rain towards the beginning of August that got things moving, gave us a bit of an opportunity, but as I say, the dry weather returned and made it really hard to establish some of those forage crops that we vitally need to get us into the winter and make up for some of the shortfalls that we've had. Now, it has been quite a while since I did record that last video, and as I said in my very first video, I'd already gained a massive amount of respect already in terms of just how much time and dedication it takes to putting these videos together. But then tie that in with such a challenging year that we've had, such as this year. All those things that I'd hoped to speak to you about, bring to you, discuss, look at together, in the vast majority of cases, just haven't been there because it has been so dry. Again, I spoke in that previous video about how it hasn't been the story for everybody. If it is that you travel into northern England, possibly even areas of South Wales, they haven't received necessarily the drought as bad as large swathes of England and also northern and mid Wales as well. So it has been very challenging for a year to try and set up a YouTube channel, but actually in the meantime, you farmers looking to create solutions to the challenges that you face day in, day out throughout the majority of this season because of the dry weather, you've rallied to the call. Now, you'll have heard me say previously, I've been in the seed industry for around about 15 years now, and I have never seen such a condensed period of time with so much activity, so much demand, in particular around forage seeds and forage solutions as we've seen this year. The month of August, and another reason why you haven't seen me for a few weeks, been hard to describe. The amount of demand on the likes of short-term grass mixtures, catch crop options, forage crops over the winter, options to go in after maize. It's been incredible. So much so, as we stand today, the 15th of September, the UK seed industry is actually starting to sell out of grass seed. For those of you who haven't gone through these dry periods, you have had available rain to you and had very good growing conditions this year. That might be hard to understand. For some of you who have had these significant dry periods and are looking to establish seed, you are now in a market that is under incredible pressure in terms of actually supplying what you need. Around those short-term options in particular, the likes of hybrids, the likes of Italians, they are getting short if not selling out, and the options are becoming limited. And we are only the middle of September already. So since you last seen me, the majority of my time day to day has been taken up with discussing forage options with customers, looking what those alternative solutions could be for growers, sourcing additional stock, finding alternative material to keep you UK farmers in the game in terms of establishing much needed forage, especially over the winter and into New Year after such a difficult year. Maize harvest as well, as I say, with the 15th of September. Usually by this time we are spending plenty of time with our growers on demo days, spending time with breeders and our teams, looking at trials that they have as well, looking at how these varieties are ready pre-harvest in the next week to 10 days. On the 15th of September, I would estimate that the UK this year is around about 60% harvested on maize, probably at least. Trial days have had to be cancelled because they've been harvested, or possibly they've been actually droughted out. Probably not that relevant to look at. It's an incredible situation that we find ourselves in, but you UK farmers, as I say, are rallying to the call, stitching in that resilience and looking for those solutions. Now, for those of you who have received rain this year, combined with that heat, you've had actually some of the best growing conditions you've ever had. As I say, travelling north into northern England, into Scotland, especially around the borders, down into South Wales, been a totally different story. And in a year such as this, I think this is where we have to be careful. I know it's something that I'm very conscious of because I go through it at home as well. You'll have heard me speak about the fact that we have pedigree sheep at home, and it can get quite challenging. I'm there to discuss possibly 20 to 30 conversations a day with growers or our teams about the trials and tribulations that a lot of UK growers have gone through this year. I then go and look at it myself when I'm outside of hours from my day job. So for me to go to where the forage is, to think actually I can do these videos, we can still put them together, let's go and look at these amazing crops of grass and maize maybe in these regions that have had the favourable conditions, that have had the rain. I don't think it helps. For those growers that are struggling, do they really want to see that? Conversely, do we want to talk the job down all the while? It's really important, as far as I'm concerned, especially from a well-being point of view and the messaging around that the optics are right, that the messaging's right, and that we pick and choose and find the times to talk about the good, the bad and the indifferent. Now, some of you may think that I'm possibly going to contradict what I've just said there by what I plan to show you today. I'm heading to Castle Douglas in southwest Scotland to go and have a look at maize crops up there, and I can tell you ahead of me getting there, they're going to look good, but this isn't about how good these maize crops look, especially for those of you who've struggled with your maize this year. This is actually talking to the Scottish market in terms of what can be achieved in terms of maize being a viable option for Scottish growers. I was actually up in the similar sort of region as to where I'm going today, only last week on Friday, and talking to growers on that day, they were really surprised by some of the stories, some of the tales that I was telling them in terms of just how difficult, how challenging it has been. The fact that I know of at least 3 herds local to me, dairy herds, that are actually looking to sell their cows because they don't have enough forage to see them through the winter. That in some cases we've only had maybe 2.5 cuts of grass silage at best, in regimes where we normally expect to get 4, maybe 5. Since you last seen me, I've also been busy away at weekends and evenings with ram sales, with tup sales. And it was really telling for the Worcester sale on the bank holiday weekend in August. The Northern and the Scottish breeders that were coming down, realisations of just how dry it has been down with us. That message is starting to filter through, and I never thought I'd see the day where actually speaking to growers in the north and into Scotland, whether or not there's an opportunity of them to supply growers in England south of the border with forage that they have plenty of. Over the last few weeks I've also seen a big key change in terms of where the inquiries have been coming from. I don't think I've had as many inquiries in all my time in the seed industry from the arable sector, looking at alternative cropping for them, looking at whether or not they could be producing much needed forage, not only for this season, but actually look more longer term for expanding livestock units. So there are options out there in these situations, in these years that create these challenges. There does come diversity in terms of mindset, opportunity, and looking for solutions to support each other throughout the industry. Of course, there's been many ongoing conversations with growers, and these conversations have actually been a lot more diverse than normal, looking well outside the box in terms of what the options are. Now, interestingly, around about 2 to 3 weeks ago, there was a post online. I tend to stay away from commenting on posts. If people are looking for help, they know where I am, or I actually direct message them and have a conversation offline with them. But this question was around, and I think they were looking for an angle of kickback on this in terms of, have the herbal lays, have the multi-species mixtures been the ones that have saved a day in such a testing year? And it was actually really encouraging. I think from the last count that I did, there was only 2 comments that said that they hadn't got on well, but I think there were 68 that had said if it wasn't for the multi-species herbal lay, whatever you want to call them, mixtures, they would have been in real trouble. Not necessarily the entirety of that mixture, but the elements of them. The red clovers, the plantains, the chicories, those deep tap-rooted species that have been drought resistant, drought tolerant, and actually given them at least something to graze, something to cut maybe. So again, stitching in that resilience, learning from what we have done this year. I actually did a podcast on it. I'll put a link down below maybe a few weeks ago in terms of the importance of stitching resilience in for testing years that we are now routinely getting. Is becoming more important than ever for us to consider, rather than just going down our existing traditional options that we normally choose. Just to put the dry weather into further context, about 2 weeks ago, so the beginning of September, I was part of a conversation regarding a grower who had phoned asking for advice with regards to their maize. Down in the southwest, it had only germinated at that point. Maize drilled April, May, not receiving enough moisture to ensure that it germinates, only up until the beginning of September. That's crazy. But look, we have all received some rain now. It is starting to come. It's amazing how grass is starting to recover. As I say, we need to bear in mind of grass can turn green, but what's turning green? Your existing grass or grass weeds coming forward. But we now need to harness the conditions that we've got, look at what our options are and move forward, hopefully managing to get through the winter and look at those options into the spring. So let's put that drought to one side now and push on and see what damage we can do. So where I'm heading today is into Castle Douglas, southwest Scotland. You'll have seen me there on my previous videos with the Yates family and their journey in terms of looking to grow maize conventionally out in the open in Scotland without the use of plastic. We'll then travel east and we'll go across to Kelso to go and see another grower, their first time grower for this year, to see how their crops of maize, again out in the open, grown conventionally, have performed in a year such as this. So let's crack on. Serious faces, people. Come on, seriously. Right, straight faces. So we've had a great morning walking around East Logan, looking at the maize here this morning. We've got Michael Yates, Harriet Blakey, Regional Seed Support, and Ali Neal, farm agronomist. So Michael, just talk us through, well, I guess your maize story really all started last year with the videos that we started putting together.
Yep, we were lucky enough. Ben came up and spoke to us last winter. We had a bit of chat. We grew it last year, and probably one of the worst years we could have tried to start growing maize, but it worked. So we then planted some forage rye in after it. Again, with Ben's advice and knowledge, it came off all right and has maybe helped the structure and the growth of this year's maize. I'll be honest, we were very concerned at the start of the year. Maize, compared to everybody else that maybe planted a month earlier, was a lot higher, a lot taller, looking a lot healthier. But Ben always kept on telling us, trust it, it'll do its thing. And sure enough, here we are standing in it, and we're nowhere near can touch the top. And it's done its thing, and it looks exceptional, ready to harvest in about 10 days' time. I
mean, that last year was a testing year for a lot of people, wasn't it? But as we said, you know, if it was that you guys could produce and perform a crop in a year like last year, then, you know, it could only get better. I mean, this has been an exceptional year this year, Ali, though.
Yeah, it certainly gave us a confidence last year. Main differences this year were we drilled the maize about a week later than last year, just because we had the forage rye to come off. So maize went in on the 11th of May, and yeah, as Michael was saying, you're getting videos of other guys, stuff under plastic, you know, romping away. But yeah, this was a kind of slow burner. It got its foliar feed Highland Show weekend, and since then, basically never looked back.
No, that's great. And Harry, your sort of thoughts about maize in general, for especially the region we are now today, Castle Douglas region, but across the borders of into Scotland, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it was I would say a bit touch and go, kind of thinking people are pushing boundaries a little bit. Thankfully the weather's been on side, but as you were saying, you managed and survived last year, so it was only going to go up from there, and thankfully you know, we've got a great crop here and it's looking equally as good across in the east as well, so brilliant variety to try them all. And
I think that is, for me, one of the biggest driving factors is the fact that, you know, the varietal developments, because I know, Michael, like, you have had maize on the farm years ago, but the varieties would be very different and, you know, come on a long way since then, especially from a maturity point of view, I guess, as well.
Back in the day, I can remember it was the end of October and that you were talking about, and as Dad said earlier, tractors and chains and choppers and stuck and everything. It was just a nightmare, whereas that was one of the main reasons we stopped growing it back then. It was just we couldn't get off early enough, and it was always a hassle. And
that would be still with plastic though back then.
Yeah, that was with plastic.
Yeah.
And hey, it's amazing. Even some of these fields that we're standing in now had maize in it back then. You could still turn them over and see bits of plastic.
Find the plastic in it.
It's still quite frightening to think how non-biodegradable it must have been.
Back then. Whereas we need to remind ourselves, and just for proof, this is all grown without the use of plastic. So absolutely brilliant result, and wishing you all well for a good harvest, and only just round the corner, but what a crop. How are you?
Bad yourself.
Loving it. Oh, don't you have to get out, look. Brought it to me.
Still a bit of water in it like that, but not.
10 days.
That's what he was saying there, probably about a week.
Yeah, 10, 12 days, something like that. So now we've headed east over to Kelso, and we've met with Neil McLean, local agri agronomist around here. So Neil, just talk us through where we are, what we're looking at, and what this story is with the maize that we're looking at over here.
We're about 5 miles east of Kelso. Last time maize was grown on this farm was about 15 years ago, and we just wanted to check up and make sure that it was getting close to harvest. Having never grown it without plastic before, it was a very much a look-see, but quite pleased on how it's looking.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and the crops we've walked so far look absolutely tremendous, as you can see behind us. And like you say, again, another situation where we managed to establish a crop and it performed without the use of plastic. So ultra early variety selection. When was it drilled?
This would be mid-April.
Mid-April. Yeah. No.
Into a dust bowl.
Yeah.
Into a dust bowl.
And from where we are now, again, 15th of September, we're assessments 10 to 12 days away,
Yeah,
and it'll be
yeah.
ready to be harvested,
I would
wouldn't it?
say
So,
yeah, it'll be going straight back into wheat.
yeah, right. So it's just going to be followed
Yeah.
by wheat. So
Yeah.
again, important that we get this maize harvest done in
Yeah,
good order,
yeah.
in good time to get that wheating established behind it.
And hopefully not too much mess in the field.
No, absolutely not. Making sure that we're keeping soil structures as
Yeah,
they are and
yeah.
limiting the damage.
Yep.
So, Harry, a good looking crop over here.
Yeah.
Please, how this one looks.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, no, I think it's been absolutely tremendous. We need to bear in mind that obviously we have had a good year for it, but obviously what we've been covering earlier on this morning with the growers over in Castle Douglas, of course, they tried maize for the first time last year in a very challenging year, grey and wet year. Well, if it is, we can get it to work in that sort of type of year. We can get it to work in almost all years. So, no, another tremendous job and another tremendous crop.
Yep.
Well done, Neil.
Good.
One last stop for me today, just before I start heading south. Neil's going to take us to have a look at a crop of kale that is looking very promising for producing a lot of forage for this winter.
There's probably a mark down there. I got brother-in-law to leave all.
Right, so just a quick stop in to family farming.
Yeah,
Neil?
family farm, yeah.
So there's a crop of kale in here.
Yeah,
This is
Sav Gold.
Sav Gold.
We tried Sav Gold this year just for sheep, for fattening lambs.
Yeah.
And a lot of the lambs have gone, but we've bought stores in now, so they'll finish this off hopefully. This will be drilled end of April, beginning of May.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to keep it going right through till late October, November time before we start turning
Stretch
stuff
it out.
in. So,
Yeah.
but the
And
stage-
actually, so it's the DLF variety,
Yeah.
and it's already very popular over in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of really good results,
Yeah.
especially from this high palatability.
Yeah.
But its overall yield as well, and the
Yeah.
winter hardiness we're tending to find.
Yeah.
So relatively new variety in a marketplace that doesn't tend to see many new varieties coming forward.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you've seen me just getting to that crop back there,
Yeah.
there is a significant amount of forage there, isn't there? Yeah. Come on, Neil, get in it. Big crop, Neil. Yeah. And like I say, the difference with this sort of type of stemmed kale is that it is all nutritionally useful and also palatable for them to eat.
Yeah.
Because, you know, again, traditionally, those kales, they end up being walking sticks, and a lot of that get left behind, doesn't it? But yeah, they'll eat every last bit of that.
Good.
Yeah.
Pleased with it.
So how many acres we got here in the block?
This is a 10-acre block in here.
Yeah. So good, useful forage to have, and
Yeah.
cost-effective crops to have as well, aren't they, kale?
It's
So,
nothing apart from fertiliser, so
yeah,
no sprays at all.
little tickle, and it's away.
Yeah.
Perfect. Ideal.
Good, excellent.
Perfect. Thank you, Neil.
Cheers.
So there we have it. As I head south now, a bit of an update for you in terms of how maize has got on grown out in the open north of the border into Scotland again this time. Just a bit of a snapshot in terms of what it is we are managing to achieve. Yes, all right, it has been more of a favourable year this year, but actually overall we're still pushing the boundaries. We're still managing to grow these crops out in the open and have a real viable option available for Scottish farmers, especially in the border regions where maize could be on the agenda for them. Has been a bit of a whistle-stop tour in terms of content. It's been a bit of a dreek and wet day up here, so I apologise I didn't actually get as much film as I'd hoped to do, but hopefully it paints the picture as to how these crops are progressing. As ever, if you have enjoyed, please like, share, subscribe and click that little bell, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now.
Benjamin, I'm in this f***ing field of maize and it's the f***ing same weather as last year. Look at that f***ing wind and rain and miserable, and the maize is fine but small. Where's my son gone? Can you organise any?